Can you, some of us really know Tron, and some don't know Tron so much. Can you just start off by how would you describe what this is?
I would say that this really is a show that kind of focuses on the grid itself and what happens with the programs and the lives of the programs under the oppressive rule of Clue.
I was going to say, it's supposed to happen in between the first movie and the second movie. How much time has happened after the first movie?
Well, it actually takes place. The events that you saw in Tron Legacy were Clue in flashback over through Kevin Flynn. It kind of picks up right after that, and takes place between that point and when Sam Flynn arrives in Tron Legacy. So, but it picks up really right after the grid is kind of thrown into turmoil with this new ruler coming into power.
So you guys are consulting, obviously because you did the second movie, but how much work do you do on each episode? Do they send you ideas and then you...
Well, Charlie's the one who's really masterminding, the day-to-day.
We obviously developed what you saw today, and we wrote another episode, and we consult, and we get scripts sent to us. We just had a season 2 kickoff, but Charlie's really the day-to-day brains behind it now.
Yeah, I mean, in the early days of it, these guys were extremely involved. Obviously, coming up with the whole show, writing the first episode, the story for episodes 1 and 2, and then also episode 3. So those first 4 scripts are all written by these guys. And then they helped me put together the writing staff and the cast in those early days. Then they got slightly busy with another show.
But what's amazing about the whole process is they'll send us the scripts and we'll meet with them to hear the ideas and and try not to screw anything up. And they're so talented. We have amazing writers, and Charlie is just what Charlie has done is, we think brilliant.
Can you talk about casting it? You probably cast it.
Yeah, these guys were really involved at that point too. I mean,
You were?
Casting
It's fun.
was really fun. I mean, I think one of the the first pieces in place, aside from Bruce, who's playing Tron, was finding Beck, and that was I think initially the idea that what we had discussed is to try to do something different with like the sort of typical action hero that you see on most animated action adventure shows, and sort of like playing around with different ideas about who that could be and what the character was like, and talking with them about the character. And Elijah Wood came into it at that point, and we were all extremely excited about the possibility of him. And we met with him and showed him some of the artwork, and then got him together with Bruce, and just the way that they were playing off each other, it was like, wow, this is going to be great. And once Elijah was in place,
Then we got Mandy.
yeah, then Mandy Moore and Manuel
Nate.
Shrieky, Nate Cordy, all these just incredible actors started to fall into place.
Paul Rubens, we kind of we've been a
wrote-
fan of his since
Yeah.
I saw him do stand up at the Guthrie Theater in 1986. So the role was for him.
Yeah,
we were hoping that
We
he would
were.
say yes, but we wrote it as if
There was
he
a
would.
lot of fingers crossed.
Yeah.
We were
Yeah.
very fortunate.
Yeah, we didn't even know what to even really expect, and he came in on the first day, and we're like, yes, that's what we want.
Yeah.
It was
It
amazing.
was amazing, yes.
Yeah, he's great.
A lot of animation, the actors are alone in the sound booth, but you mentioned that Bruce and Elijah sort of riffed a bit. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, I think in a lot of animation, oftentimes you do some ensemble stuff and some, with just an individual actor. But with this cast, these are all really talented actors that are quite busy, and it's often just from scheduling purposes, I don't have an opportunity to get them all in the same room at the same time. So it's often just me one-on-one. However, sometimes we get them together, especially specific episodes or specific relationships that are really great together. Nate Corddry and Mandy Moore those two characters are really playing off each other a lot, and I try to get them in the booth together as much as possible.
In the first one, we did everyone, just
Yeah.
to kind of kick it off. We had everyone in a studio, and that was fantastic.
Yeah, that was great. Nerve-wracking, but great.
Well, I'm going to say it looks fantastic. It looks
Thank you.
feature quality.
Thank you.
Actually, the animation just looks stunning.
Cool.
I was just curious about like the whole approach. It's kind of like the Clone Wars, you know, with Star Wars, where you have the series like bridging two different huge film sagas together. What was your approach and thoughts with Uprising? How it segues basically, how it takes Tron and basically bookends with Legacy and how it merges them both together.
Well, I think for us, it wasn't just the bookend quality that was appealing to us. It was that in writing the movie Legacy,
It's like the dig-in quality.
right.
Yeah.
It was like we felt like with Legacy, it was you have 2 hours to tell a story, and you want to tell it as cleanly and excitingly as you possibly can. And in the process of developing and writing that story, there were all these things happening on the margins and mythology that was creeping up and becoming a part of the world that we were so excited to dig into that when we got the opportunity to develop the show, we realized we can start to kind of really dive into some of the backstory of these characters or people you only meet for a moment in Legacy and then see
And-
so much more of that world.
And for us, on a character level, it was fun to tell the story of the grid through the point of view of a program. And Flynn kind of hints at it a little bit in Legacy, which is their programming, they are exceeding it. And we wanted to tell the story of somebody who starts to do more than his programming and how that freaks him out and how he kind of has to act on that.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the overall arc of the first season?
Spoilers.
Well, I mean, just a hint. Give us
Well,
just.
I think a hint of it is kind of what Eddie was just talking about, which is for the character of Beck, this is a journey of someone who is a program who has a particular function, who is realizing that there is more to him than that. We think that there's something really cool about that, about kind of exploring this idea that you are more than what you're told at first and discovering what that is about you and having to do it against the backdrop of really high stakes
And-
for your friends.
And I think that thematically works for the grid and every character, because the town that we take place in, the sector, is called Argon City, and you will see that you will see it's called Uprising for a reason, which is you will see Clue come in and take over the world, and you will see how a select group of people decide to fight back, and then what that means emotionally. And what does that mean for friendships? What if, you are, Beck, as we saw, can't go around saying, I'm, the new Tron and I'm doing all these things, and what does that mean if one of his friends doesn't like that, So we really try to have that theme and then watch it, also emotionally affect the characters.
Charlie, since your work with Samurai Jack, you've been stepping away a little bit, I see, from the usual Western animation tactics and going a little more for Eastern style. Is Tron also going to be kind of more anime styled with fight scenes and story-wise?
I mean, I don't think so specifically. I mean, and you mentioned Samurai Jack. We were, all heavily influenced by Japanese animation while making that show too, as well as a lot of cinema, like both from East and American and European cinema. But I think with this show, it's a real mashup in terms of like the talent that I brought in from people that I met working in Europe the last 8 years, as well as I'm using an animation studio in Japan. So there's a huge, and they're very creatively involved as well. They're not just a production studio. They've got a lot of involvement in terms of the how the show is made and animated. So it's like this mashup of American sort of aesthetic and European aesthetic and Japanese as well. It's we've got a very international crew of people and everyone's sort of like chucking in to develop what the show's become. So.
From that episode, it seems like a very Japanese anime style storyboard.
Yeah, I mean it's not. It's interesting. There's a lot of different people. That first episode is was originally conceived as one story, but chopped up into 10 parts, 10 3-minute parts, and each 3-minute segment was storyboarded by a different person, and they're from all walks of life. A lot of people that I worked with on Samurai Jack. So Yeah, I mean, we are definitely very influenced by Japanese animation, and that's, I think, a compliment that it's if you're seeing that in there, because we just really love that, and we want the fight sequences to be really compelling and engaging and exciting too. So and some of that Japanese animation that's influenced us. I mean, it's obviously and Japanese cinema is seeping in there for sure.
And to possibly return to spoiler territory, in Legacy there's a character called Rinsler.
Yes, there is.
And I'm just curious if we learned something about
Well, we
Rinsler's
didn't
time
forget
as well.
about Rins.
Okay.
Here's the thing. I think the thing about the show is people might say, well, wait a minute, we saw Legacy and this takes place before it, so Clue wins. So why am I watching this? And for us, the important thing is that this story is telling a story that will eventually. We're not trying to tell you something that isn't canon, and we're also trying to say is you may not know the whole story yet. So we are aware of the timeline in Rinsler and what happens, but we're going to start at a place that is many years before that.
Right. We're really trying hard to make this fit into the universe of Tron from both movies, but also to be its own thing.
In Tron Legacy, with Kevin Flynn, he had the map of the grid, and it seemed like you only saw a certain portion of it, which was predominantly about Tron City.
Yes.
And of course, this is the first time we're hearing about Argon City.
Yeah.
So, are we going to see Tron City in the series, or see other cities or elements?
Yeah.
The geography per se.
We
Yeah.
really have attacked this like 3 12-year-olds.
Yes.
And we have brought every toy pop. Wouldn't it be cool to have a light snowmobile? Yeah, but it can't be called that, And
Yeah.
and so we have environments in cities and new
Yeah.
vehicles.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the most exciting things, particularly from that 12-year-old boy perspective of, like, how do we, do all the wouldn't it be cool stuff with the grid and kind of find new, fun places to explore.
Yeah, and also from a design point of view, we've opened up the grid into these different cities that we go to, and what do they look like, what's different about them, and what's unique about these different cities, and what kind of different environments out in the outlands too, beyond just city environments, but from snow and mountainous terrains to deserts and water, ocean. So we've got like a very advanced virtual world that we're playing around in.
Will there be some underwater activities since you're right next to the sea with Argon City right now?
There's some fun on the water for sure.
Can you tell us about any of the vehicles? Can you?
Well, my favorite is the light train. It's kind of like a subway that also goes upside down. And the helicopters.
The helicopter is one of my favorites.
Yeah, been working right from the beginning. Been working with Daniel Simon, who did the vehicles in the film, and is just a rock star vehicle designer. He's just incredible. And as he told me in the beginning, he's like, I finished Legacy and I've just got so much Tron in my brain. Everything I do looks like Tron now. So he was excited to do some more Tron. And like they were saying, Legacy is just it's 2 hours and then you're done with this. We have an opportunity to tell a story, a lot of story here, and we've with all these different terrains. There's snowmobiles and different light jets, the train obviously, and stuff on the water too. There's a lot of new stuff that's been really fun to design, and we brought incredible new designers that Daniel's helped me find as well into it, and we've just been expanding vehicles.
Guys, we have about 2 minutes for questions.
For Edward and Adam, this is the first time you've ventured, I think, into animation. Is it just like painfully slow compared to doing live action?
It's still 3 hours faster than movies.
Yes.
This took 3 years. No, it's an interesting. We've always been fans of animation, and the very first thing we ever wrote together was the Spec Simpsons. So, we've always loved animation, and it's interesting to watch it come together. It is much slower considering, we've just done 22 hours of a show in the last year, and we wrote these 3 years ago. But it's really cool to see the design and watch it come step by step, which you don't usually get to see that process. So for us, it's been a great learning experience.
It's also it's what's amazing about it from a writing perspective is it really allowed us to open up our imagination and to do things and collaborate with Charlie and then say, what about this? And Charlie responds with, what about this? And then shows us designs and ways to do things and visual ways to realize these ideas that are beyond what we could have imagined and beyond what you could achieve in a live action budget in a series or in a movie even, where it could be just ridiculously prohibitively expensive.
You said that the series predominantly happens from the perspective of the grid, but will Incom have any sort of presence in the series at all?
This is really like we're with the programs in this. We don't cut outside, we don't go to NCOM, we don't really show you much of the user world. This is about the programs and their kind of struggle.